Hello, folks. It's
Hi
another
there.
episode. Yeah, it's another episode of Würfel episode 35. Today's topic of the day is top 10 small box games, and we also are not reverting back. I would say we are skipping few segments. We're doing like a kind of a new format, but it's the same format, but just a new segment. Cult of the Old is coming today, and we cut a few other segments as well to shorten the episodes as a whole. So you won't be I don't know. It seems like sometimes they get a little bit too long for what they
What?
are.
I'd never noticed.
But I think without further ado, let's get to our first segment, which is recent plays, and it's the same as before.
Okay.
So, Carl, I think let me start here,
All right.
because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share the screen for another tab. Usually I share the Board Game Geek tab so we can show the games, but here I'm gonna share the Kickstarter tab. So, yeah, I'm doing some cheating here. We're doing the old segment, what's on Kickstarter now. The thing is that I've recently, not recently, but about a month ago, I got the copy of a preview copy of a game called Long Shot, the dice game.
Okay.
And so it went on Kickstarter like recently, I think like few days ago, 31st of March or something like that. I had to do the preview video. It's gonna be done this weekend, so it's gonna be there early April, and this is the game of betting, and it's in my recent plays. I've played it lately, and it's a game about betting on horses, what horse will end up winning, second or third place as well, and it's a kind of like a roll and write game. So you're rolling your dice, and I'm just showing you the Kickstarter page, so you can, if you like it, you can watch look at the Kickstarter page and maybe back it as well. But yeah, you have this kind of a sheet here where you can do several stuff. You can mark down. It's all dry eraser markers and things, and you are spending money to bet on horses, and then you are buying them hats and shirts and whatever. But it's all like a mechanical matter here, and playing some little bingo here, and it's all about the dice themselves. So you're rolling 2 dice, and one of the dice shows what horse will move, and the other dice shows the speed of that horse. So, and you are betting on those horses, money and things, and you are also using those dice and the colors and the numbers, so you can mark down different spots on your player board, so you can get some extra bonuses, extra money, extra movement for the horses, or like free ticket and things, so you can like make a free bet there. At some point when the horses reach a certain point in the track, you cannot bet on them anymore, but you can also buy horses as well. And the cool part about that is when the horses move, they move other horses as well. So each horse has a kind of a path down here where it shows if for example, this horse is named Sorry. If number 7 Sorry moves, then number 1 and number 3 also moves there, and you can mitigate that, and you can add other horses as well. So it's about a lot of luck. You have to be sure about that when you go into this game, but it's also it's fun. It's luck with the right theme. And when the theme meets the luck in this case, it is fun in that case. Even if you lose, it doesn't really matter. It's still fun. It's because sometimes the luck is on your side, sometimes not. Sometimes one horse is just so up ahead, and then it just stops. And then like it doesn't come up. Or you can also mitigate luck. You can change your dice as well sometimes, and what you mark down. And buying those horses is cool because they have special powers. So when you buy a horse, you can have some kind of an extra thing you can do, and whoever gets the most money will win the game at the end of the game. So if you buy a horse and it gets a first place in a race, you get a lot of money for that, and there's a second and third place as well. But for example, if you buy two horses that are second and third place, it's basically the same as first place. So you can do you can do many different things in here. So, but it's very lighthearted, and you just have to play. It's yeah, betting, roll and write kind of a game.
All right.
Long shot, the dice game.
There we go.
Yeah. So this is my recent play, and let's go back to, I think, Board Game Geek and Kyle.
All right. So my recent play is a game. it's a game, but it sort of comes in a spiral-bound book. The game is called Cantaloupe, and that's Cant-A-L-O-O-P.
Cantaloupe?
One word.
Oh, this one? The book?
Yeah, it's the first one. The second one hasn't come out yet. And so this is sort of it calls itself a playable thriller. I don't know if it was really a thriller, but it sort of harkens back to some of the older games from my childhood. Such as Day of the Tentacle, which I had played, which are what were called the point-and-click adventures. It's not an escape room, right? And if you go in expecting it to be the escape room type game, you'll be disappointed. But what you have is those cards, and on every page of this book, there's little bars, and you can sort of take the cards that you have and match them up to the bars to combine the items to get different reactions. So, for example, sometimes they're silly things, but there might be an electrical socket and a screwdriver, and if you put them together, the game will say, you electrocute yourself. Take this card that says that you died. And it doesn't really have anything to do with the gameplay, but it's sort of that's an example of something that might happen that doesn't happen in the game, but that could. And so, really you're kind of playing through this story. There's a guy and he needs to break somebody out of prison, and he needs to find a girl who's going to help him con somebody, and sort of setting up for a big caper that's going to come, presumably in the next book. But it's really quite fascinating. Right, it's kind of an afternoon of activity. It's not the kind of thing you would play again, but because now I know sort of how it works, right? I know that I need that hanger that you can see right there to get this thing, and I need to use my phone for this, and so I kind of know the beats of the story. But it's really quite fun to go through, and there's a lot of very silly humor in the game, lots of odd people that you meet that have very strange reactions to different things that you can ask them. And there is a lot of sort of figuring out, okay, what do I need to do? How do I get the pieces I have to work together so that I can progress the story? But fortunately, the book has a really nice hint system at the end. You can see right there, the different entries are covered by that red obscuring text, and so you have that little lens piece that you see above the book that you're going to hold up and read the different things when it's time. And you can't just sort of read them all because some of them don't make any sense, and it's there to obscure you. But at the end of the book, there's a nice hint system which will walk you through, right? You're going to mark off the different things you've done on this checklist, and it'll say, okay, what's the most recent thing you haven't done? And then it'll say, go to this page and read this hint, and it'll give you a couple of hints, and then it'll just tell you what to do if you really can't figure it out. But the hints are sort of lighthearted as well. Like there was one where you have a balloon and you need to let it go, and so the hint says, what would Elsa do? And things like that. But it's really a lot of fun. Definitely something that I enjoyed. I'm not going to keep mine. I'm going to give it to somebody else because I'm never going to play it again. But it was a great one-and-done adventure, and I'm really looking forward to the second part.
I see. It's looking at the Philibert big board game shop in Europe. It's out of stock here, but it's like 23 euros, which is not a lot.
That's about right. That's about what I paid for it.
30
It was not
$30.
very expensive, and it's not. I mean, the components themselves are just a bunch of cards, really. Unfortunately, they're kind of glued into the front of the book in these 3 folders, which are nice, right? It keeps it all compact, but they're difficult to get out of that box. Um, so you kind of get them all out and then just set them on the table.
I'm really interested in this one. I like. I would like to try point and click in a board game setting. Let's say there are few like that, but they are not point and click. To be honest, like there are some adventure games. Like we got
Right.
Brave Continent, we got Thumb Stories, but it's not that.
This
one
is very
seems to be
different. This is a very different experience than any of those. And if you go in expecting it to be like those, then you might find yourself disappointed. But if you're going in sort of it's basically like a choose your own adventure, although there's only one adventure to choose, and you're kind of figuring out how to make that story progress. And I just found it quite fascinating.
It seems to be unavailable everywhere.
Oh,
That's interesting. Wait.
well, it was available when I bought it.
Interesting. It's available in Finland, which is nice.
Oh. In
could be-
English?
English, yeah.
Okay. I don't think I would enjoy it in Finnish.
It's 26 euros, so it's $35, like something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you could play through. It'll probably take you, 3 or 4 hours. And then, you just give it to somebody else because there's not really any point in keeping it at that point.
Okay. Well,
Also, there's some laugh out loud moments and really stupid jokes. So,
yeah. Okay, so let's get to the next segment then, which is Cult of the Old. And so, yeah, we're talking about the games that are rather old. Sometimes forgotten, mostly forgotten. But I think they're cool. And as I started the episode with kind of a controversial pick of a Kickstarter game, so with Kickstarter page, I'm gonna continue with a controversial pick here. It is an old game, but this is the game that's been touted by us as one of the ugliest games we've ever played.
ah,
And that's the Golden Ages. Yes, the Golden Ages. The Golden Ages that came out in 2014. It's 7 years old. And why I wanted to highlight this game. Look, the look of this game. The look of this game is not.
it is
so great.
amazing looking.
Yeah. No, the board itself, so basically it's a civilization building game, but it's more of a Euro-y engine building game here. But it feels like a civilization kinda as well. So it's more like a real life civilization here, with all different wonders and leaders and whatnot. But the map you are unfolding, it's up to you. You can build up. Like it doesn't need to be a Mother Earth, it can be anything. So as you can see here, for example, whoops, sorry. But it revolves around controlling those different areas so you can have access to those different resources, because the central point here is this track with different technologies. And you have those tiles on them, and as you are buying those technologies, and you need money, and you get money from the resources. And you get the resources by controlling them on the map. So as you're uncovering more and more technologies, you become better and better and better in what you already do, which is cool. What I like is that this game gives you a sense of progression without giving you too much of an extra to remember, to learn. So, if I get to this tile, this is a new mechanic. If I get to this tile, this is new. No, it's basically all the same, but it's more powerful. Almost. Some places are, but they're rather easy. You get the what's it called, the grain. You get 1 coin for each grain you control. Now we get 3 coins. but it's a pure engine building, and it's fun. The mechanics here really work well together. The problem being a really ugly game, and maybe a few tweaks to the mechanics as well. But I like how you play out those cards, the buildings that give you some abilities as well, and leaders and technologies and things. It's just the whole progression that I love. And I wanted to highlight this game because it is a great civilization building game, in my opinion. It's a civilization themed, let's say, game, in my opinion. And maybe someday somebody will take this game, revise the. I mean, the iconography is nice. I like the iconography because it's clever, kinda. Yeah, I mean, like it's not so
but
bad.
But it looks bad. Well, I mean the art. It is. It's clear, and that's important. But it looks. I mean, even the illustrations of the cards and resources just sort of looks bad, and that is indicative of everything that this particular board game artist does, right? If you look at his other games like Troyes or Brussels 1878 or whatever,
and some people love it.
Some people do.
So that's a matter of taste, really. Yeah.
I guess.
With this one, I would love to get upgraded components, totally revised graphics and things. And then I would go in again and buy the expansion as well, because it has the expansion. It adds even more variety. It adds even more of things to do without having too much like a culture thing. We're having too much of things to remember to learn. So that's why I wanted to highlight this one.
Oh yeah, it's a great game. I wish it looked a little bit better.
Let's make a beauty out of the beast. Okay. All right, what's your pick for
Right. So my game today is a game that I don't know why it came to my mind, but it definitely is old. It came out in 2006, and it's a game that doesn't get played that much, but every time I get it out, I'm always glad that I did. It is one of those more, I guess, less popular winners of the Spiel des Jahres prize, and the game is Turn and Taxis, which it takes the theme of the German postal system in the sort of Renaissance, I guess the Baroque age, I don't know when it was, the 1800s, German postal system.
Just for a moment, it seems like the theme for us is to choose rather ugly games that nobody wants to play.
That's not necessarily part of this. Another one I was considering is not ugly at all. But this one is not the most beautiful game. It definitely has, I guess I would say it knows that it's a Euro game, and it doesn't really try to be anything else. But it's a really interesting game, right? So what you're doing is you're trying to drop off your little houses, and you're able to drop them off once you score a route in either all of one color or one in each different color. And so you're trying to build a route of postal systems of cities that's efficient. And so every time you take a card, you're going to play a card on every turn. You got to play a card on one end of your line. You can never play in the middle, and you can't loop back. So you're trying to make sure you're able to build a route. The longer routes are worth more points, but you also get points by completing these sections faster than anyone else. So if you could go for a really long route, or you could go for several shorter ones. And it's a very interesting game. It's very easy to play. There's two expansions. One of them is a new map, which really just doesn't add anything except different cities. So it's kind of changes your strategies a little bit. And one was a weird one about going to Rome to visit the Pope, and that one is not as good. That's sort of the it's like the jewelry expansion to Stone Age. This one, but the first expansion, the Northern Germany one, is just fine. I really enjoy the game. It's one that every time I get it out, like I said, I'm always glad that I did. It's one that a lot of people enjoy, but not really anybody talks about. It's kind of fallen into into obscurity over the years, but I really enjoyed it then. I mean, I remember when it came out, we played it all the time. And I would love to play it again as soon as today, if I could find somebody.
It's, yeah, it doesn't sound too bad. It's a little bit too brownish.
Oh, it's very
opinion.
brown. It's
It's a brown game.
it's got brown, and the cards are brown, except they have a colored banner on the bottom, and the back is brown. So
Yeah.
somebody definitely had only one color available. It's not a looker. I won't defend how it looks. It's not as bad as the one that you mentioned.
Yeah,
But
to be honest, it's not so bad looking. I mean, the art and the cards, it's totally fine. If you
It's
look at the
fine.
board, it looks like that. But if you look closer at the board, I had a few pictures here. It has some tiny details and things which are
Yeah.
rather nice. It doesn't look bad. It looks nice.
it is illustrated, and
I like how it looks.
it might be that if the board were nicely painted and in different colors, that it might get in the way. As it is, it's very clean, and so it's easy to see which region is which. And even though there's not a whole lot going on the board, it doesn't, it's clear which cities connect, and so that's nice. I do wish it, had a little bit more excitement, but
I find like one of the things about these games, the box covers are the ones that are not selling the game. And in this case, the box cover is a problem for this game.
well, it's not an old man looking sort of off-camera left with a serious expression. Instead, it's, I think, some people receiving their mail from a postal coach.
No, this lady looks right
We do have a lady, but we also have the postal coach. So there you go. Yeah, I'm glad we have somebody sort of looking off camera, right?
Indeed.
Anyway, if you haven't tried it, I think it's worth trying. I really do think it will work with a lot of people. It's not hard to learn, but there's enough to keep you coming back. And it's one of those games that when I play it, I'm like, I'd like to play it one more time. Because it's not long either.
All right. Okay, this is the Call of the Old, and let's get to the next segment, which is funky components. We talk about some really cool different components that are not so common sometimes in our cases. So I'm going to start with, I wouldn't say it's extremely uncommon, but it looks cool anyway. And the game is Flag Dash. I already talked about that one before. And Flag Dash has these meeples that hold the flag. And you have they have holes in them, and this is basically capture the flag game, right? Running around with your people with some, I think there was special abilities and things and whatnot, and some, you can use the holes, you can use the barriers and things, and it's just cool. You steal the flag from another player, so you take the flag out and stick it into another meeple. It's just a nice touch. Adds to the theme itself. So I think it is a funky component. It's not an everyday use component where you would think like this meeple is just a, something is wrong with that meeple. Why there is a hole inside the meeple's head? It's for the flag.
That is an odd place to put a flag, but okay.
Yeah, the thing is with most of them, they had to choose the holes had to be in the right places for the meeple not to be destroyed or something like that, to be stable and etc. Yes, plus the flag itself. Yeah, if you put it on the side, the meeple can fall because the flag is also a wooden kind of a token. So it takes the extra weight and it just falls.
I'll just say I would not like to play capture the flag like that. If I had to drill the flag into my head.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a good game. All right, what's your funky component?
Okay, so my funky component is, and I talk about this game occasionally. It's not Summoner Wars. It's the game is called Cloudspire. And Cloudspire is by Chip Theory Games, and all of their components are funky. They sort of have a theory that they want their games to be completely waterproof so that you could play them in a swimming pool. And this one definitely achieves that. All of its cards and player mats are printed on plastic. All of its board is large, very difficult to store neoprene mats that are oddly shaped so that you can't really fit them anywhere. It has heavy plastic chips, which are very nice. And it has these towers, which I'm glad you turned right there, which are completely unnecessary. That's the miniatures expansion. But sort of sit on top of a pile of chips and show you that that is a tower. And each faction has its own different color and shape of tower. That's the Grove Tenders there. It does also have a playmat, as you can see. I did not get the playmat because the playmat literally is a piece of neoprene that sits underneath a bunch of pieces of neoprene. And is beyond unnecessary. But it's definitely it's a box of unusual components. The dice are really the only normal thing. And there aren't that many of them, and dice really aren't used as much in this game as one of their other games, Too Many Bones. Okay. It's a very interesting game, really nice, different playable factions. With the most recent expansion, there are now 7, and they're all very different in what they do. You can sort of customize your base and build different abilities and enhancements throughout the game as well, and doing so directly impacts your score if you don't end up destroying your opponent. It's really a very fascinating game, and component-wise, it definitely stands out.
Yeah. No, that's totally true. It does. Not the one that I would like to try and play, but the components, yeah, sure.
Well, the components also cause the game to be quite expensive and quite heavy to ship to Europe, I'm sure.
Mm. All right, so this is the Funky Component segment, and we're going to go to our topic of the day, which is the top 10 small box games.
Yes, and Cloudspire will not be on the list.
Cloudspire will not be on the list. So, and for the small box games, yeah, it's there was not we didn't have the exact measurement of the box that kind of fits into that category, but I tried to pick small boxes and the boxes which were like, I'm not sure if it's small or big. It's like somewhere in between. I left out.
Mm.
So
I travel with games a lot, and so this was a list that was kind of difficult because I have a lot of games that travel well because they're in small boxes, and so I think all of mine are small. Some are less small than others, but I don't think any of them would be considered a big box.
Mm-hmm. I have one which is like the biggest out of all of them, but it's still small. It just
I do too.
Yeah. Anyway, without further ado, let's get to our number 10. And Kyle's number 10.
All right, my number 10 is Now, I tried not to just put small card games on the list because that's not what the list was about. But this one is a small card game, and it is in a small box. In fact, I have a box of just sort of small card games, and that's where this one lives. And the game is No Thanks. No Thanks is a deck of cards that go number 1 through 35 and a bunch of chips. It is a sort of a standard small card game size. A really interesting game of kind of negative bidding, right? You know, you can bid a chip and pass, or you can take a card and get all the chips that are on it. Ultimately, you want to have as few, you don't want points, you want the lowest score possible. And so these cards are really not what you want. But getting certain sets, getting cards that are in order, have an advantage to you because you can score only the lowest card. It's an older game. It's been around for a long time, but it works really well. It's very easy to teach. It works with large groups of players as well. I don't know how large. I don't know if I'd play it with 10, but you can easily play it with 4 or 5. And I just really enjoy it, and it is definitely a small box.
It is. Yeah. All right. So I've played no thanks. So no
You have
thank
not
you.
played it? Oh, okay.
I'm not
Well,
interested in that kind of a game.
so you're saying no thanks to it?
No, thanks. Ei aitäh.
Okay, there you go.
All right, so my number 10 is, so I wanted to highlight at least one of these series, one of the games in that series of games in the Tiny Epic series, because they are small boxes, but they have rather big games in them. And my choice and the one that I have in my collection is Tiny Epic Dinosaurs.
I'm shocked that this would find its way onto your list.
Yeah, I was considering Tiny Epic Galaxies, to be honest, but
Okay.
Dinosaurs does something for me that the others don't. One thing I'm not the biggest fan of a puzzle, but the puzzle of how to fit all the dinosaurs in my like park or whatever the fence
I
is.
thought you were
inside
talking about the
fences,
box.
and so yeah, in my box as well. Yeah, it's a cool puzzle. I like. I'm not the biggest fan of contracts, but I like the scientific cards, which are basically like new individual dinosaurs, like different type dinosaurs, and the extra abilities and things and such, which makes your life easier here. A simple worker placement. It's not so hard to explain the game, but it is. There's a lot to explain, to be honest, for such a small box. So it's something in between of maybe it should have been a bigger game, but on the other hand, we have dinosaur games like Dinosaur Island and what's the other one? I don't remember. Dinogenics or something like that,
Yeah.
etc. So there are some dinosaur games which are big boxes. So I think a small box dinosaur game is also a cool idea in this case, and I like it.
Good.
I like the special abilities. I like the puzzle. I like worker placement.
Yeah.
That's my number 10.
Very well. I
Yeah.
mean, I've played this, and I think I've said I had some concerns with just the way that some of the things work together. I did not hate the game. It's definitely, sort of middle of the road for that series for me.
Yeah. All right, let's go to number 9. All right, Kyle, what's your number 9?
All right. Well, continuing on the Tiny Epic series, the one entry from that series that will find its way onto my list is my favorite in the series, and that is Tiny Epic Quest. Quest, Galaxies, and Zombies are my favorite three, and probably in that order. But Tiny Epic Quest is an interesting little dice game, right? You're going to take all these cards and make a rather large map, and there's sort of some action follow system where you're moving your people around the map, but then ultimately what you're going to be doing is rolling dice and sort of pushing your luck and trying to get a certain set of symbols that you need to advance through certain dungeons or defeat monsters or do other things, get some magic symbols, trying to reach certain goals. It's not a long game, it's just a few rounds, but it works really well. It works well solo. It works well with a couple of other people, not too many. But but I really enjoy it. It's definitely a small box. It's very colorful, and the theme is captivating. So I think that is my favorite in the series, Tiny Epic Quest.
I had this one. I started reading the rule book, and I don't know why. Maybe it was just a bad day. I couldn't get through the rule book. It wasn't so well written, I think, something like that. It wasn't intuitive. In my opinion.
Yeah, that's how I felt about the Pirates rulebook, by the way. Sometimes this particular series, the rules are sometimes a little. They kind of get. I don't know. They make my head feel a little foggy. Not because they're complicated, but they're just the way that they're presented is a little dense, and I can definitely understand that. But
Yeah.
I think you probably might enjoy the game if you ended up playing it.
No,
And at least the cards aren't tiny.
the rule book and just not getting through that made me just give the game away or sell the game. So,
Sure.
so I don't want to go.
Maybe
through
you should try it sometime.
that. If somebody teaches it to me, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to my number 9. My number 9 is to be honest, a really small game. I think it comes in a talk. No, it doesn't come in a talk box. Sorry, but it looks like it almost. But there are quite a few cards, and the game I talked about before as well. That's Flip City.
Mm-hmm.
And with the expansions as well, if you get more expansions, it becomes a bit more interesting. I don't remember if it fits all in one box, but even these two small boxes.
It does not.
But I mean, like, if you can have two small boxes, and that's still
Sure, they're not very big.
Really small. Yeah, so you can see different ones. And the cool part about Flip City here is that in this game, I usually do when I play it. I hold the deck in my hand, and I play the cards down one by one. And you're trying to. It's a push your luck. You're trying to get as many cards as possible out there, so you can get more money, so you can buy new cards or flip the cards in your discard pile, so they become more powerful cards with more maybe victory points and etc. There are different victory conditions as well. Either you lay out like 18 cards or something like that at once, or you score a certain amount of victory points, which are like medals here. And you're trying to do that, but you can get frowny faces, and that will bust you, and you will end the turn. The cool part about that is upgrading those different cards, and the push your luck is so easy and explainable. So I feel like this game, with even more different decks and things, I think, with maybe a little extra twist, mechanical twist, with maybe another expansion that would come out for this game. That would be a great addition to, I think, every player.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the concept of the game. The execution ends up feeling a little messy just because, as I think I've said, it requires people to do things in a very specific way, right? If you flip your card over at the wrong time, you can sort of ruin the game. And so it just requires you to pay attention to the way you shuffle, to the way that you handle the cards, because you can, I guess, cheat inadvertently, either for the better or worse. And so it's a little bit more fragile than some of the other games that I tend to enjoy, but I really like the concept.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to number 8 now. So what's your number 8?
All right, my number 8 is kind of a cheat. It is definitely small, but it doesn't come in a box. This is from that Wallet line of games. From what is that company called? Button Shy, yes. And the game is Sprawlopolis, which is probably the best loved game in the line. It's an 18-card game. I keep it in one of my bags, right? It's one of my go-to travel games in case I find myself in a position where I have, 10 minutes or somebody to play with. And it's a little game where you're sort of building a city, and you're building it out of these cards, and you've got a couple of goals that you're trying to score for. Really easy, really engaging, but the kind of game that you can play 3 or 4 times in a row. You're building in a non-sort of linear fashion. You can just put a card wherever you want. You can overlap. There's a lot of freedom in what you can do. Not a lot of rules, and which is sort of this company's approach, right? This is their shtick. But I get a lot of their games just because I like to see the innovations in design. Some of them are stinkers, but this one really is one that I have really enjoyed. And it definitely, I think, fits the bill of small, even if technically it's not in a box.
Yeah, it's reminds me of Honshu or Knoxford as well. That was also
I was considering Honshu. I was not considering Knoxford because I didn't like that game. But
I liked it. It was nice. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Anyway,
so
that's a small game.
Yep. Let's go to my number 8. My number 8 is another small game, and it's starting to kind of fall down in my list of, and if you've seen it in my top 100 as well, it's in my top 100. But if there is a chance to play it, if somebody says, I really want to play this game, I will play it. And that's Insider.
Yeah. Definitely a small box.
Definitely a small box, and maybe I need to get there's the dark version of Insider as well. I don't know what it does, and it has an extra roll, something like that. So I'm interested in that.
I haven't played it, but I heard about it.
Yeah, maybe that would like kind of refresh my experience with Insider. But it is my choice of a tiny party game, let's say, because it has those. You can play it basically anywhere. The cards, I mean, like it's all cardboard, and you shouldn't play it on the wet table. But
sure.
but it's still
that goes with most games other than Cloudspire.
I don't know. But I feel it's not the game that would be ruined by like those roll cards, whatever they are, the roll tokens, whatever they are. It's not so easy to ruin them, something like that. So it can be played in the bar, something like that as well. But this is a 20 questions. Basically, it's you have a master who is the role of master. He's basically known by everyone, and then you are asking questions about a certain word that the master knows, nobody else knows, and they can answer yes or no. And if you are one of the commons, you don't know the word, but if you're insider, you will also have information about the word, and you are trying to act as everyone else. You're trying to act as a common and not to be seen by others. So, but you know the words, so you have to somehow make the progression towards guessing the word easier for the others without anybody knowing that you are the insider. So yeah, and then you vote, and then you laugh, and then you start again. That's it. Very fast, easygoing, and works well in different occasions, and you play it many times in a row. You never play it just once, you know.
Well, I have played it just once. I played it with a group of people who didn't like it, but
okay.
But yeah, this game has worked really well for me. I remember, did I bring it to Estonia, and that's where we played it?
No.
Oh, somebody else did, because I know I played it in Estonia with people at one point, but I also played it with my family. I've played it a lot of times. I think it's slightly been replaced for me by Werewords, just because that one adds a little bit more. It's the same game, but it adds a little bit more variety with the different roles. But it's a great game.
Yep. Okay, let's go to number 7.
Okay.
All right.
Number 7. So I tried not to make this my list of small card games or roll and write games, but one of each of those found its way to my list. And this is my current favorite in that genre, which is Trails of Tucana. I got this one just sort of on a whim, and it was a big hit for me and everybody that I've played it with. It is just such a fascinating little game. You have this map, as you can see, and you flip over 2 cards, and you have to connect those 2 hexes somewhere on your map. Oh, there you go, kind of like that. That looks like a digital implementation. And you're trying to connect different things. And everyone's board is slightly different because of how you set it up. You're going to sort of put the different destinations in different spots. But you're trying to draw a network that connects as many things as possible. You're trying to do some things quicker because if you connect the different landmarks, you're going to score them at every scoring in the game, and you can play the long side or the short side, so there's 2 or 3 scorings. Either way, it's super fast, it's a lot of fun, and it's one that I remember I just really enjoy it. And it's one of those games also that it's not really when you just play once. It's like, well, I played it once, let's play the other side. Why not while we're here? and I really enjoy it. And it's definitely a small box. It's an oddly shaped small box. It's sort of a big square. I don't know if that's an odd shape, but it's not sort of your sort of narrow rectangle that you'll find in most of the other games. But it's great.
Yeah. Another one. I haven't played this one, but for example, I played Avenue, and it seems like I don't really like. It's not like, but I don't really like roll and write games that have connecting paths or something like that. I'm not a fan of that mechanic as a whole.
I understand the thought about Avenue. That's what I thought originally. But here you're not drawing a particular shape, right? In Avenue, you're sort of boxed into, okay, I drew this, so I have to do a curve. In this one, you're just drawing one line. It's always connecting two shapes, and you can branch out however much you want. And that opening it up makes the game a little bit better. Actually, it makes it a lot better.
Okay. Yeah.
And like if there's something you need, and you can see sort of the probability of the different types of things coming up, like the water is, I think there's only 4 water cards. You can sort of plan around that. You can think, okay, look, I can't count on a water and a mountain coming up when I need it, so I'll go this way instead.
Yep. All right. So my number 7 is a game I talked about a lot, but I feel like this is a smaller box. And this is another sort of a game. I mean, like, I tried to make the list of games that are different from each other. I have few that are similar, but they are different in the other way. But I have kind of a good representation of different mechanics and different genres of games. This one is World Wars. And World Wars represents the bidding game and the set collection game in this matter. And there was the Kickstarter for a new version, basically the same version, but with the expansions as well, expansion as well. So yeah, this is a game about bidding, like Storage Wars, and you have those different locks, and you are like, if you're a master, like in the Castle of King Ludwig, if you're a master, you're trying to make people bid a lot of money so you get it all. And if you're not a master, you're trying to understand if this deck is worth all the money you're bidding on that. So I like that. I like the looks of the game. It's the fantasy world. It just works here. And the Loan Shark as well. But the expansion will fix few issues with, like, at least as much as I've seen about the expansion, it will fix few issues for me at least. But I still like it. It's just fun to play that kind of a game. And it is a small magnet lock box.
So I will agree with the statement that it is in a small magnetic lock box.
Okay. I know you don't like that, but that's fine.
Yeah,
it is
I've you know, it's not. It didn't really work for me, but I definitely think that it fits in the small box portion of the list.
Maybe we should play it when the expansion comes out. We should play it again.
I'll try it again. I'll try it again and see if I like it. It's been a couple of years since I tried it. Maybe my tastes have changed, but I wasn't a huge fan of it.
My tastes have changed because if I played Alexander Pfister's game recently, then something is wrong. So.
Yeah,
maybe
true.
You will also.
Maybe we'll trade, and you'll play Twilight Struggle, and I'll play Vault Wars.
Oh, that will never happen there. Okay. Anyway, let's go to number 6. All right, so number 6.
All right, my number 6 is a game, since we mentioned Alexander Pfister. This is one I don't think you enjoyed a ton, but I really have. And the game is Port Royal. Port Royal is an interesting little push-your-luck card game. And
yeah, one thing I want to say that maybe I told you already that recently, and that's another Alexander Pfister game that I felt like I need to try it again, play it again with the right people, and I bought it, and I played it, and I liked it. So this is the game I do like now.
Okay, well, there you go.
There are some issues, but yeah, you talk about it first. Then.
Yeah, well, so I mean, it's sort of just you're flipping over cards and you're kind of deciding when you're going to stop, right? Because that's going to depend on what your options are. But you've got sort of if these different pirate ships come out and attack you, then you're going to bust. And you're trying to collect different sets. There's a bunch of different characters that are going to help you score different things. There's a lot going on here. There's also a story expansion if you're into that. It's just one of those games that is so small but so fast and easy to play that I just really enjoy. I like sort of the think of, okay, well, I'm going to flip over another card. There's no way I can possibly bust here. And then, of course, you do. It's that same almost Quacks of Quedlinburg feel when you're sort of pulling something out, thinking, can I go a little bit farther? It does sort of the push your luck thing without making that the sole focus of the game. And I think that's why I like it. Versus something more like a Can't Stop where you're just pushing your luck and not really doing anything else. I really enjoy the way everything works, the different options you have, the different characters, and if you add in some of the expansions, it just changes that up even more.
Yeah, that's the one that this one can be compared to Flip City on my list because this as well, the push your luck, but it has deck building elements and things. And here as well, it has the set collection elements and some special abilities, kinda. The problem I have with this game, I played it a few times and I realized there's not enough for me in the base game. It's not variable enough. It's extremely repetitive.
But so, wait, there's more.
No, but wait, there's not more because to be honest, it's not so well distributed. I tried to find the expansions, and it was hard to find the expansions. I tried different places to find all the expansions, but it just, it wasn't so easy to get all the expansions. And then I realized, okay, if I'm not getting the expansions, then off you go. And that's why it went out of my collection.
Well, I think I ordered them on Amazon.de, but that was back in, it was a while ago, so I don't know.
Yeah, the problem as well, I don't want to pay like 20 to 30 euros of shipping for a game that's 15 euros, you know. Yes.
You have to pay that much to get from Germany to Estonia?
18 is the lowest, I think, yeah.
Huh.
Many places say at least 18 euros. Yeah, it's not so, to be honest.
I knew it was expensive to ship to the U.S. from Germany, but I didn't think it would be to Estonia. Anyway, I really enjoy the game. It's one that I come back to every so often. It's definitely the lighter. So Alexander Pfister has sort of the heavier and the lighter side, and I tend to enjoy his heavier side a little bit more, but I like his lighter stuff also.
Yep. All right, so my number 6 is one of the kind of a roll and write entries, but this one is extremely different from usual roll and write, at least in my opinion. There was another game, I don't remember the name, not Sweet Nose or something, I don't remember the name.
There was a game called Sweet Nose that we played.
Yeah, that's the one, but there was another game from Asian publishers, and it was about Tetris-shaped pieces, and you're giving cards to each other, and you're trying to kind of fit it into your grid, and then you can bust. It was cool. It was interesting, but this one makes it much more interesting, and that's Cartographers.
Oh. Very well.
And you can say it's kind of like a Tetris, but it's a free roam Tetris. As you say, like Avenue had a specific restrictions on how you make this one here, so now you have to make a turn. The same was for that other game I'm talking about, the Tetris. But here, the Tetris is totally up to you, however you want to, mark it down. And as you can see, some people are going nuts about making it really cool and weird shaped.
I wouldn't want to play with that person. That person would make the turns last forever.
Yeah, but this one, for example, you can see. So you can play it. You don't have to. You can just write down the shapes, but people do tend to color them as well, so it's easier to see. So
you do have to color them Or mark them in some way, right? Otherwise, you won't be able to tell what type is which.
I mark the shapes. I just mark the shapes because I don't want to have a ton of like 4 of each colored pencil in my box. It just doesn't fit. So
It's not.
so, but anyway, yeah. This is you flip a card. You flip a card and you choose a shape you want to write down or let's say draw, and then you draw that, and then there are some scoring opportunities like. The rivers must be next to mountains, and or the fields must connect to mountains, or each completed diagonal of the map is more certain amount of points, etc., etc. So you have all these different cards and seasons, etc. So you have there's a timing as well. You cannot do that forever. There are a certain number of rounds as well, but there are also some.
And by a certain number of rounds, you mean 4?
Yeah. And there are also the monster cards, which are basically not so good. They are shapes that get into your way, and the problem is that if the monster card comes up, you give it to the person next to you, and they draw it onto your board. And of course, they will draw it somewhere where it's not so beneficial to you. And everything around the monsters will give you minus points in trying to get to the highest score possible. And it plays
You
well
mean
solo
everything
as well.
not around the monsters will give you a minus point?
Yeah, empty spaces around the monsters give you minus points. So yeah.
I like this game a lot too, right? I put Trails of Tucan on the list, but if you were to ask me my favorite in this particular genre, any given day I could go the other way and pick this one. I really like it. I'm excited for more. There's an expansion coming. There's one available already, which is some alternate monsters that you can throw in that makes them a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
The one thing I wish, and I don't know if this is coming in the expansion, I wish the season scoring were a little bit more dynamic, right? It's always A, B, B, C, C, D, D, A. I wish maybe there were a way to change that up a little bit. But
Maybe
I
don't know.
maybe just something so that it's not always I'm doing these two and then these two. I don't know that would really make a difference, but it might.
The thing is that it's just for the viewers. It's not that the scorings are all the same. There are a certain amount of cards. There are 4 different types of scorings, basically, and from each type you choose one, and they can be. Today A can be this scoring, and next time A can be another scoring, and something like that. So each season will have, like it's all randomized, basically, where and when and what scorings are. So
I like this game a lot.
All right, let's go to number 5.
Okay. My number 5 is a game for exactly 2. This is a fine little trading game. The game is called Jaipur.
It takes 2, yes.
It doesn't. It'd be a terrible solo game and a terrible 3-player game. It is a 2-player only trading game, and what you're doing is you've got a row of cards, and on your turn you can take a card. You can sort of trade cards from your hand for other cards on the table, or there are these camels that you can take, and the camels are not really used for anything except you can use them to trade for other cards and get more at once. And you're trying to make sets and score these chips, and the chips you can get, kind of like with turn and taxes we talked about earlier, you can get more points by waiting and scoring a larger set, or you can sort of go in and sweep all the cheap stuff up quickly. There are more valuable cards that you can try and get sets of those for more points, or you can try and go and wipe the market clean to force the end of the game. It's a lot of different things you can do. You play the game best 2 out of 3. So you really are going to play it at least twice, but any particular round is not going to last very long. And you just sort of gather up these chips, add them up, that's your score, and the game is over. I enjoy it a lot. It's a great 2-player game. It's one of the best 2-player only travel-sized games if you're going on a trip with one person. and it's a tiny box. It's sort of this very narrow rectangle. At least the old version. I don't know what the new version looks like, but I quite love this game.
Yeah, that's the one I did try. I did enjoy this game. And I would play it again if somebody proposed it, and there's only two of us. But that's the thing. I just don't own just the two-player games because I have quite a few games that are, if possible, can be played with more than two players, but they can also be played well with two. So this one doesn't fit into this category. But yeah, it's a simple game. It's nothing wrong, but nothing extremely, let's say, overwhelming or not overwhelming, outstanding. Sorry, outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, but except how it's a great one to play with because it works with just about anybody, right? There's not really any gaming knowledge required to play it, and there's no icons on the cards, so there's nothing to sort of learn. It's very easy to get into, which is great for a simple travel-sized two-player game.
All right, so my number 5 is another game in a kind of roll and write genre, though Cartographers was drawing the different puzzles pieces, etc., Tetris pieces. This one is more of a straightforward roll and write game, and that's of course the Dice Stars.
What?
Dice? Yeah. But Dice Stars is how to say about it? It is a classic roll and write game in the sense of how it's played. You roll dice, you choose the amount of dice, you pull them out of the bag, and you roll them. You cannot look at them before. You just say, I'm going to pull out 2 dice. You pull out 2 dice, you roll them in the center of the table. There already might be a few dice in the center of the table, and you either take all of the same color or all of the same number. You cannot take more or less, anything like that. You have to take, if there are 4 blue ones, you have to take all of them. And you write it down. So based on the color or a number in either a column or row, and you're trying to fill out those different spaces. And the more dice you take, the more spaces you fill out, but the bigger point value you get out of that as well. So it's kind of you have to be precise about what you take, how you take, and whatever. It's a little bit of push your luck sometimes, because there are certain dice out there and you're like, I need to push my luck and draw just a few dice, but if I end up like with, I need for there to be only 2 orange dice, and there's only the 1 die, and if I pull out 2 more, there will be 3, and then I cannot use them or something like that. So there's cool push your luck element there as well, in my opinion. Yeah. And the stars. The stars is not it's not extremely of a push your luck element, but sometimes it is. With the stars, if you fill out the whole row in particular row of the numbers, you will double your score for that row. And if you will mark one of the stars or few of the stars, but not all of them, you will score 0 points for that row. So it's a bit push your luck out there, but it's not a huge one. And then you combine all the points and see whoever gets the highest score. It's all about what to pull, how many dice to pull, and what you take from the center. That's the game. And sometimes you take the dice that you don't want others to take on their turn, because you see that they will benefit from that a lot. So that's Dice Stars.
Yeah, it's Dice Stars. You have mentioned it a time or two. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was quite as amazing as you do, but it's a fine little roll and write game.
Yeah. Let's go to number 4.
All right. Number 4 is a game that has come out a few times recently, mostly because another game that is very similar is coming out soon, or out now in some places. The game is a little card game, a little sort of hand-building game called Fantasy Realms. And it is a game that I just really enjoy. I mean, I remember when I got it, it just spoke to me. It's not the best two-player game. I will admit that. I think it definitely is one that benefits from having more than 2 players. It has an expansion that's coming out too really soon. Oh, that's not the version that I have. But really what you're doing is you're trying to build yourself a hand of 7 cards. And you're trying to make combos that go together. And so each card has its own different way of scoring, and it may give you a bonus or a detriment based upon what else you have. So, for example, if you have the candle, and you have the tower, and you have the wizard, it gives you 150 points. But, the wizard itself might lose you 20 points unless you have a storm. Or there's a bunch of different things that are going on. Each color kind of reacts differently to other colors. This was the inspiration for the game Red Rising, which is coming out soon. That's the one I was referring to. And I've always really liked Fantasy Realms. And it's definitely a small game, small box. It's just a deck of cards. And it's super fast too. And I just love the way that sort of everything comes together and you feel like you're doing something really fun. The scoring's a little wonky, right? Because you kind of got to go through each card. Apparently there's an app for that. But I really like this game.
As you can see, I have Red Rising right there.
Ah, there you go. So,
yeah.
Mine has not arrived yet, but there you go. Well, I don't know if you've played Red Rising, but I know you've played Fantasy Realms, although you only played it 2-player, which is not the way that it shines.
I didn't like it at all.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Then I don't know why you bought it again.
I feel like Red Rising might do it the way I like it.
We'll see. I hope that I'll like that game as well. But I really like this one. And this one's definitely smaller.
Yeah. All right, so my number 4 is a 2-player only game, and that's the one that I was thinking I need to put at least one of those. But it's the one I would play again. And I need to try the expansion as well. It's 7 Wonders Duel. Mm-hmm. And it is a small box, to be honest. Yeah, with the expansions, there are many more things that will not fit the base box, but it seems...
They will. They fit.
Okay.
I have personal experience. They definitely fit. The box is unorganized, but it all fits.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, Wonders Duel is based on 7 Wonders, but the drafting is not the traditional drafting that you used to, that I don't really like. This one is drafting from the center of the table, and some cards will be face up, some cards will be face down, and you basically draw cards from this different shaped pyramids and things, and then you put them into your empire, and they do different things. They are basically resources, so you can grab other cards, so you can build the wonders as well, which will give you extra turns, extra money, etc. There are blue cards will give you straight points. There are the green cards, which are scientific symbols, and if you get a certain amount of them, different types, then you win the game. So there are 3 winning conditions. Either you get to the end of the game and just look at the points, or you will have the military victory, which is very much unlikely. It's the least one I see happening. But
I've certainly done it. It really depends on, you kind of have to go for it, right? You have to lean in, and it often happens a little bit more if you get one of those green chips that gives you the extra military bonus. At that point, if you get that one earlier enough, you can say, okay, I'm doing this.
Yeah, if you get it. Yeah. But yeah, the scientific victory as well. But this one is just fun. Collecting cards in front of you, you're becoming kind of a powerful. So the cool part about is that at some point you will have cards which will give you access to the other cards for free, and that's a cool thing out there. And it's just back and forth. You are trying to get the cards from the center, but at some point if you take that card, this will reveal another card that might be a really cool card. It might be the card that it's, for example, a military card, which will benefit that other person a lot, and they will win eventually. So a little bit of push your luck, just a tiny bit out there. I like this game, some of this duel. This is my way of playing it 2 players.
Yeah, I really like this game too. It's not going to show up on my list, mostly because I always want to play with the expansions, but the way that the icons work in the expansions just makes it really difficult to do that. It's one of those games that really would have benefited from some text on the cards. And the cards are, 80% art, so there's definitely some room for some text. But some of those icons are just, it's almost Race for the Galaxy level when you add in some of the expansions.
Okay, I see.
So that's my only real knock against the game. The base game without the expansions, which is really the way that I end up playing it, is great. And the box is a little too tall. It's a weird shape. Again, it's a square box, but it's a little bit oddly shaped square, I guess. But I definitely considered it for our list.
Okay. All right, let's get to number 3. So,
right. My number 3 is definitely a travel game. I have played it in a travel context, including at an airport on the back of a suitcase. This is a game called Silver, a game that you have played with me as well. It's a really fun little game of sort of memory. There's some memory aspects, but you're drawing a card, playing the card, and kind of deciding what to do with it, trying to align a set of your own cards so that you can swap them out and get rid of them. You're trying to have the lowest score possible. You're going to play with 13 different special abilities, 14, I guess. It's 0 through 13. And there's 3 expansions as well, which you can add in to kind of mix things up. The most recent expansion, the Silver Dagger? Is Dagger the most recent one? Yes. That one has some weird abilities that I'm not sure that I'm totally sold on. But at least the first 3 are great. It adds a lot of variety. Very small box. It's a tall box, but it's very compact. And I really like it. It's one of my favorite card games, one of my favorite travel games, and just a great game to play with a number of players from 2 to 4.
yeah, I agree. That's the one I want to hunt down and get into my collection eventually, because I feel like this is the game that even through even having those special abilities, I think this is the game that everybody can understand eventually.
Yeah.
It's not so hard to go through that, to teach that.
Right. Well, and the abilities are described in text, which is always nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Assuming people speak the language that the cards are in.
Yeah. All right, so my number 3 is a game in a small box, but takes a ton of space. I think it takes the most space in this case. And if you buy that extra thing to that, then it takes space not in a length, but in a height as well.
In height, yeah.
Yeah, it's Burgle Brothers, yeah. So, and there's the second version, Burgle Brothers 2, something like Casino Heist or something like that coming out as well. But Burgle Brothers is, it takes space, but it takes, it not, I would say it takes, but it gives a lot of fun moments.
It does.
It gives what it takes. It takes what it, no, let it be. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
UK, huh?
Hey, Harry, I shrunk the drag. Okay, no. So this one is a cooperative game, and you each have a character with special abilities as well. But this is 100% a puzzle game. You're trying to puzzle out when, where, how to move, what to uncover, what to explore, what to see up front, and the guard is moving around. You don't want to get caught twice, or you're basically out and you lose the game. And I like the uncovering different rooms and trying to find certain rooms as well. But there are the alarms going off, and things, and you're trying to crack the safe as well, and get out through 3 different floors. You get to the roof and try to escape. So it just works, but it is a puzzle. At some point you can even, though it is thematic, you kind of forget about the theme, and you're starting to puzzle out right. So the guard moves 3 spaces here. They will certainly move towards you. So if I'll go to the 2nd floor, they will start moving, which means that, like, it's so much fun to figure that out. Brutal Butter is my choice for number 3.
It's a fine choice. I don't really have a reason for not putting it on my list. It was certainly one I thought of. Honestly, the small box kind of gets in the way, right? The box is just a little bit too small for this game. I wish it were maybe a little bit bigger, actually.
They made it so, they made it so this game can make this kind of a list of our top 10.
Well, they made it so that it is the same size box as hardback and paperback. But I think that's really what happened, I guess. But whatever. It's a great game. It definitely fits on the list.
All right. So let's go to number 2. I think we're going to get predictable here.
Well, maybe. I think my number 1's predictable. I'm not sure my number 2 is. And my number 2 is just one, I think it's on the list because I've been playing it a bit lately.
It's 2 decks of Summoner Wars. No.
Well, Summoner Wars, the original, definitely could have made the list, right? That original starter set came in a very small box with a horrible paper mat. But I'm not going to count that one because mine's in a huge box. So this game, however, is probably the biggest box on the list. The game is called Blitzkrieg.
Mm-hmm.
And Blitzkrieg is a little World War II game, and I have it and its expansion. And the expansion allows a sort of man in the high castle version of World War II, but it's sort of a back and forth game. It's almost a Twilight Struggle-like feel. One person is the Allies, one is the Axis, and you're playing a chit. You're going to play your chit on the board in one of a few different locations. Some of them have special abilities, and it's going to move this little tug-of-war track over to your side. And then somebody else will play it, you move it back. At various points in the game, you're going to score, and the way that you win the game is either you get to a certain score threshold first, which is, I think, 20 points, or if you can create a situation where your opponent cannot play a chip on his turn, then you also can end the game and win. So there's ways to do that to interfere with what people have. The quality of the components is not the best, but the gameplay itself is super fast, really fun, one that I would just play anywhere. The board looks big, but it really is not. It's very small. I played it on tiny airport tables. I just really enjoy Blitzkrieg. It's definitely a small box, definitely a great game. Also 2-player only, although there's a mediocre solo mode you can play as well if you want to deal with spreadsheets and flowcharts.
Yeah, another one that I'm interested in, mechanics themselves don't interest me. The theme and the looks of the game don't do it justice. So,
well, the others, the Japanese side has Godzilla.
Nah,
so
okay.
It's a little bit of a less serious version of World War II. So the theme itself doesn't come through, right? This does not feel like World War II. It does not feel like a war game at all. It feels like an interesting little tug-of-war game, and for that, it's great.
Which is not my kind of game, yeah. Anyway, all right. So, my number 2 is a game I talk about a lot, but it needs to be high because it has done wonders. Not 7 wonders, but it has done wonders in getting few of the folks who don't usually play board games into the board games and trying out a few other games. This one was the kind of like a welcoming game to many of my ex-co-workers, etc. And that's Red 7.
Yeah, this one does frequently feature on your lists.
It does, but for the small box game, this one is clever. It's smart, and it shows. Well, this box has seen some better days, but this one it it helps to for the new players to learn how to see multiple things at once, because it's not so easy to get into it at first, but eventually, oh, this card is a color, this card is a number, this card is a rule or like special ability, whatever it is, and there are certain high and low cards, etc. Those different mechanics, different aspects of the game, they teach about some aspects that you see further into the hobby as well. For example, one of those players that I played it with, he loves this game the most. It's his favorite game. But then through that, I introduced him to Port Royal, and then introduced him to Wingspan as well. The progression, the build-up, etc., trying to see different paths, trying to understand the different aspects, it kind of teaches that in a very tiny package. And you just build up the color palette, and you're trying to get certain sets, the most numbers, the most colors, the even numbers or odd numbers or whatever, all cards below 4, something like that. You're trying to stay in the round. The thing is that each time you play a card or 2 cards, by changing the rule, you're trying to stay in the game. If you cannot do that, you're out of the game. But everybody plays it, you play it really fast, you start another game. You can play it as kind of not campaign, but you can play it as a point scoring game as well, where if you win a round, the whole thing, you take the cards out that won you the game, and then you put them aside, and then you need to get to a certain amount of points. So you can play many rounds in a row as one whole game, or you can play just each game separately.
Right.
It's been a gateway to many people in my gaming community, and I've been blessed by this game. This is one of those games that I would keep for the sake of this one being the holy grail in my collection.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is.
I thought the game was okay. It just didn't really make me feel very excited. I understand lots of people like it, and I don't dislike the game. It just didn't really fill me with joy. I guess maybe I was looking for something more.
Yeah, the cool part about that is that the first time everybody plays it, they're like, I don't get it. It's weird. Let me try again. This game just makes you try again because it's weird the first time. I don't understand that, but I need to understand. Something's wrong about this. It's just a simple card game. What's wrong with that one? And then they play it again, and they're like, wait, let me try again. And then the third time they play it, ooh, I can see that, how you build up the palette. Just works.
All
right. So let's go to the final number.
Okay. 1. Totally not.
You've been cut. You said totally
I did.
Not.
And I was about to say predictable.
Oh. We are going to number 1, totally not. And then it cut.
So we are definitely going to number 1. In fact, we're there now.
All right. It's yours.
So my number 1 is a small box game, a small game, a great solo game, a little dice and card game, a game called One Deck Dungeon. One Deck Dungeon is in a very small box. There are 2 boxes. You could buy either one. You could combine them if you'd like. But it's a fine little game where you've got a little deck of cards, and the deck of cards has monsters on the other side. There's a playmat that you see there that is not needed at all. And you've got a hero, and you're building up the hero's stats. So by defeating certain monsters, you can allow yourself to roll more of a different color of die. Or you can get special abilities, or you can get potions that you can use to sort of heal yourself, prolong the game, or give you access to something at a moment when you need it. And then you're going to play through the deck 3 times. Once the deck is done, you're going to fight the boss. And really what you're doing is you're rolling dice and trying to place them on certain spots and using your abilities to try and manipulate them so that they can be the right number at the right time in the right place. It's a fine little game. It works really well. It's a great travel game if you're going to be by yourself a little bit. And it works okay with 2 as well. I have played it with 2 and not hated it. I don't know if that's a rave review, but I enjoyed it just fine with 2. But it's a solo game, I think, primarily. I would love to see more to it. There was an expansion that came out on the app only, which I would not mind seeing in the full game as well. But I really like it. I talk about it a lot, I think. But it's definitely a small box.
Yeah. All right, yeah, I'm about that one. So I'm not a solo gamer as well, so that might be the case. So my number 1 is, it might be predictable because that's the game that you haven't heard yet about, but it needs to be on my list. It is a small box, and you can fit the expansion into that. It fits. I mean, like it shouldn't fit, but it somehow fits. I don't know why. You have to throw out the insert, but it's not an extremely useful insert anyway. What I'm talking about is The Last Expedition.
No.
No way. Another one. No. I mean, this is another one of those series of, I'm not talking about the on the publisher side, but in the series of small box games that have been a gateway to many people. And one of those games is The Last Expedition, because it's extremely easy to teach and learn because it's a cooperative game and it's a puzzle game. Once you get through that the yellow ones are mandatory, the red ones you need to choose just one, and the blue ones are optional, that's it. And the icons are in front of you. You say, oh, if it's filled, then you get it. If it's empty, like the whites in the background, then you have to spend it. That's it. And then let's lay out the cards. Let's go through the puzzle. And you can play it with, you can play it solo. You can play it with 2 players. I really like it with 2 players. I enjoy it with 3 players. You can play it with more players. I even played it with 5 players, which was also quite fine. Maybe the problem is because you are not having, like, you don't have a character each, you know?
Right.
You rather have a central kind of a board, a central choice of characters, which basically are just, they have expertise, but they don't have any special abilities. They have health points, basically. You need to have at least one character alive when they reach the city of Z. And here, if you play with more players, it doesn't feel like it feels like a little bit too many people, too many opinions, too many choices. I mean, most opinions, I think. That's the thing. And if you play with 2 to 3 players, it's more of a discussion. It's more of a tense kind of a what should we do? What should we spend it here and then get this one here? Oh, and we can get this one from there and do that and do that. It creates a lot of discussion. And by the way, this is my photo. Oh, nice. It is. This is also my photo. Okay, nice. I uploaded a few photos.
Okay.
Recently. So finally found mine. But anyway, yeah, it's just a lot of fun. The expansion adds few tiny modules you can add in. You don't have to worry about too many rules. It doesn't add that much really. But it adds just a tiny bit to make it a little bit more exciting. Right. I played it with many people. I played it with non-gamers. Yeah, I like it. It's a travel package.
It definitely is. I enjoy the game. I don't know that I love it, but I enjoy it. I kind of, if I had my pick, I wish the tokens were a little bit bigger. They're kind of small, tiny little throwaway things. But they're functional. I wish the box allowed you to sort it a little bit better. I mean, there are a lot of things I would improve. I almost wish it came in a slightly bigger box, but I like
That's
the
the
game,
problem.
and it doesn't look bad. The art's nice. It's very stylized, but it's not bad. It's a good game, and I was not surprised that it would be on your list. In fact, I think as soon as we talked about the list, I knew it would be right up at the top.
Yeah, it should be here, yeah. Next to Red 7. All right, so that was the small box games list.
I think it's our shortest list ever.
Is it?
Oh, we're just at an hour and a half.
Yeah, but I wanted to have it even to be an even shorter episode. But we're still trying. We're still trying. Yeah. So anyway, thank you for watching, and we're gonna see you. Oops, we're gonna see you another time in 2 weeks.
All right.
Hopefully.
Sounds great.
So.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.